Okay, before you click away, I know what the title is. I know what archetype I'm covering. Just give me a moment to make my point. Konami sometimes has a really bad habit of introducing an archetype, never touch it again, or just never completes it. And Amorphage kind of feels like in that genuine category. Because when every pendulum archetype got nerfed into the ground thanks to the new rules, they introduced a link monster or link monsters to basically give it new life, and Amorphage was just kind of skipped over. So I kind of want to fix the main problems with the boss monster a little bit with their consistency, but I don't want to make them too powerful, so I'm challenging myself to fix Amorphage, complete its lore, but not making it too powerful. Well, let's start with what we can do. So, first is basically their boss monsters, and it'll tie into their links, I promise. Uh, Amorphage Goliath, there's only two very reliable ways to get him out. One, he has to be in your hand turn one. You have to have two different scales and two monsters that are level 4, all in the same hand to get it out turn 1. Because that monster is going to have to be tribute summoned out. Unfortunately, it's incredibly easy to get rid of Goliath because he's got no protection the next turn. And the only other way to get him out is literally Pendulum Switch, which I got him out very consistently with it as long as I didn't use my own trap floodgate monster on myself. The other boss monster of the deck is Amorphicator paying the Imagination Dracoverlord. That is one hell of a sentence. And I love that this card is tied into the Dracoverlords, which kind of ticks me off because Dracoverlords were a nice little, oh, here's a nice little boss monster, and then they did nothing with them. It's like they tied them to 3 cards, and then Draco Slayers just went off and did their own adventure and just left this guy in the dust. So they need some kind of tie to Amorphage, which I'm going to give them. And let's start with this card. So I want everything to tie together with a spell card called Amorphage Experimentation, basically showing Dracoverlord using multiple viruses on an animal or on himself. Because it always felt like he should know how Amorphage monsters work, because eventually he just completely Frankensteins himself at the end of his lore. So you can activate 2 Amorphage experimentations per turn, once on the field and once in the graveyard. On field, you can add an Amorphage or Dracoverlord monster from your deck or face up extra deck to your hand. Or add a spell or trap card that mentions Amorphage in its card text. Banish this card from the graveyard to activate one of these effects. Target one monster on your side of the field. For the rest of the turn, that monster counts as 2 tributes for an Amorphage monster. Or target one Amorphage or Dracoverlord monster on your side of the field, and its level becomes 8 until the end of this turn. For the rest of the turn, that monster cannot be used as link material. Essentially, the first one is just consistency, because it's hard to get out their spells. Most of the time you want most of your deck to be monsters because you're trying to get out what you need and use them as fodder for your other effects. And the banishment is literally so you can get out Goliath, and you have the actual requirement for Amorphicator paying the Imagination Dracoverlord, because it is hard enough to have basically everything you need for one card. So another requirement of getting that ritual monster on the field is that the field spell for the Amorphage monsters has to be in the graveyard, and you have to banish it as the ritual spell card to summon it. Which, god, that's one heck of a card design decision, but I think I can fix it with the Link 1. Link 1, Amorphage Virus, Earth Dragon, 50 attack, and points down. Requires 1 Amorphage or 1 Dracoverlord monster. Once per turn, you can special summon one Amorphage or a level 4 Dracoverlord from your hand to the zone this card points to. If this card is in the graveyard, you can banish this monster to destroy one spell or trap card on the field, or send one field spell from your deck to your graveyard. This monster can only be used as link material for an Amorphage monster. So, getting your link set up? Good. If you have a better way to get your field spell in the graveyard, that's good. Now it's just a free pop just in case you need it. Or if your card gets called by the grave, like Foolish Burial and all that, well then this is a nice backup. And now let's move on to the Link 2. As a result of Dracoverlord's experimentation on Amorphage monsters, we get Amorphage Indulgence, or Amorphage Orthos. Link 2, Earth Dragon, 550 attack, points bottom left, bottom right, requires one or more Amorphage monsters and or one or more Dracoverlord monsters. While this monster is face up on the field, all Amorphage and Dracoverlord monsters gain 100 attack and defense, while all other monsters on the field lose 100 attack and defense. The first time this card would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. Once per turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add one spell or trap card that mentions Amorphage in its card text from your graveyard or banish back to your hand. Once per turn, during your standby phase, destroy one card in your Pendulum Zone or destroy this card. This monster cannot be used as link material. So, now you have your link monster to get out more monsters. You get a little attack buff, a little protection, and you can get your spell and trap cards back. And I think that about does it, but I'll throw in one more card for good measure. So in the lore, the Draco Slayer essentially kills all the Amorphage monsters. The Dracoverlord assimilates them into his body, essentially becoming Lecter Pendulum, the Dracoverlord. But there's no cards or art really depicting this. They're kind of just making this a fact on the wiki. So let's make a card that actually resembles that with Amorphage Assimilation, a regular spell card. When this card is activated, send all Pendulum monsters in your Pendulum Zones to the extra deck face up. Then place two Pendulum monsters with scales 3 and 5 in the Pendulum Zones from the extra deck. This effect can only be used on Amorphage or Dracoverlord monsters. Quick effect, while this card is in your graveyard and you control one face-up ritual monster, if that monster is targeted by your opponent's card effects, banish this card to negate that effect. And with that, I think we've completed what the archetype needs and finishing off little bits and pieces of its lore. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the cards I created and how I would fix the lore and how I'd fix the cards of both Dracoverlord and Amorphage. If you have any comments about how you would adjust them, just so that we could call this archetype, well, both archetypes quits and just say, hey, we finished it, it's done, now this archetype never has to be touched again, let me know down in the comments. I actually really interested in what everyone has to say. Last Time Lord video was really enlightening, and I can't wait to read, like, comment, and respond to everyone. And I will see you in the next discussion, which will be BES. See you next time.